Good evening and welcome to the council meeting for Monday, February 23rd, 2026. Please rise for the playing of the national anthem and a moment of reflection.
Oh, Canada.
Please be seated. At this time, I will look to Councillor Lindell to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The land on which council meets today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Attawandaron and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many Indigenous peoples made up of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement should remind us of our responsibility to ensure the dish, the territories on which we live and work, is never emptied, and that we take care of the land and its inhabitants in a way that ensures its future sustainability.
Thank you, Councillor Lindell. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this evening's council meeting. I want to start this evening with some sadness as I report that earlier this month we lost 2 retired city workers. Ali Van Ooyen spent 45 years as a crossing guard with the city, helping students get to school safely in the North End. And Martin Smith spent 27 years with the city as lead hand and custodian at the St. Catharines Museum and Welland Canal Centres. Flags at all city facilities were lowered to honor Ali and Martin's contributions to our city. On behalf of council and city staff, we offer our deepest sympathies to the family, colleagues, and friends of both Ali and Martin. Last weekend, I had the opportunity to attend the Centre Wellington Black Committee's Awakened Voices narrative at Salem Chapel. The focus on the often untold stories of Black Canadian historical figures was incredibly powerful, and I want to give a big thank you to the very talented performers who brought these stories to life. I also want to say a special thank you to Rochelle Bush, who opened the doors of the Salem Chapel once again to host this very meaningful gathering. There really is no better place to honor these stories and come together in reflection than at the Salem Chapel. I want to send a congratulations to CHCH Morning Live, who recently celebrated 25 years on our television screens. Thank you for ensuring local news is shared with residents here in St. Catharines and across the Golden Globes, across the Golden Horseshoe. Wishing you all the best in the years to come. My brain was sort of backing because I was with CHCH this morning playing dodgeball with Mayor Jim Diodati, and I may have taken a shot to the head this morning for the dodgeball, so my apologies. As part of my ongoing Mayor Links visits, I had the opportunity to visit a staple in our community, our region's commercial hub, the Penn Centre. Under new ownership by Montreal-based Léad, the Penn Centre is focused on strengthening its market position. Additionally, ownership is focused on value creation through tenant mix optimization and the exploration of mixed-use redevelopment potential, positioning the property for long-term growth and diversification. So a big thank you for hosting us, and we look forward to seeing what comes next at the Penn Centre. Last week, we hosted our first of 3 joint town halls, this time with a focus on Grantham and Port Dalhousie wards. I want to say thank you to Councillors Dodge, Phillips, Mako, and Williamson for joining me, and thank you to the community for bringing their concerns and feedback to us. Stay tuned to our website and my social media feed to find out the dates for the upcoming town halls in 2026. Last week, I also got to witness Canada at its best with municipal, provincial, and federal leaders collaborating alongside private sector marine innovator Ontario Shipyards, who's anchored here in St. Catharines as well as in Hamilton, along with global partner Hanwha Ocean and academic leaders from Mohawk College to push the shipbuilding industry forward. The ceremony formalized 2 agreements focused on strengthening our ability to build ships domestically, expand workforce development, and advance practical knowledge transfer through collaboration. These benefits will be shared across Ontario and support the broader effort to rebuild and scale our shipbuilding and marine industrial base. And this is what our progress looks like when industry, education, and government are aligned to power innovation, create opportunity, and secure a strong, sustainable maritime future. So I want to thank all the partners involved for this announcement. On Saturday, I attended the Stand United for Ukraine event. I was joined by Councillors Williamson, Mako, and McPherson. This weekend marked the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Our community gathered in solidarity to stand with our Ukrainian neighbors and to recognize the weight this war continues to carry for so many families here at home. For many in St. Catharines, this is deeply personal. We have neighbors who worry every day about loved ones overseas and families rebuilding their lives here while their hearts remain tied to Ukraine. We also remember Cole Zelenko, a young man from our city who gave his life defending Ukraine. His courage will not be forgotten, and we will continue to stand in compassion and solidarity. Also on Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the 4th Black History Month annual variety show organized by Future Black Female, hosted at the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre. This year's theme, Black Futurism, encouraged us to think about the future in a bold and thoughtful way, shaped by culture, spirituality, and innovation. The poets and performers brought incredible passion to the stage. Their work was moving, creative, and deeply meaningful. I want to give a thank you to the organizers and everyone who shared their talent. Events like this strengthen our community and remind us of the importance of creating space for diverse voices and perspectives. Yesterday, right in the midst of a gold medal hockey game, I had the chance to attend the Ontario Provincial Championship for the first Tech Challenge Robot Series. The energy in the room was amazing, and the level of skill on display was impressive from start to finish. And watching the students compete and adapt in real time was very special. A big thank you to Brock University for hosting the event, and congratulations to everyone who competed, and best of luck in the next round. We'll be cheering you on. Yesterday, Councillor Stevens and I attended Lunar New Year celebrations at the Dunlop Older Adult Centre, featuring performances by the Song and Dance Ensemble. It was wonderful to see so many people gathered as we welcomed the Year of the Horse. The horse is often associated with determination and forward momentum. That spirit feels fitting as we look to the year ahead and continue building a strong and connected community. I want to give a thank you to Ling Wang and the event organizers for the invitation to join you, and Happy Lunar New Year to all who celebrate. Last night, I had the pleasure of joining the Muslim Senior Center at the iftar dinner hosted at the Islamic Society of Niagara Peninsula Mosque. Ramadan is a time of reflection, generosity, and community, and it was wonderful to see so many neighbors come together to break their fast. A special thank you to Nahid Qureshi for her incredible leadership and for organizing such a warm and welcoming evening, and a Ramadan Mubarak to all who celebrate and are observing. Congratulations goes out to local developer and philanthropist Benny Murata for his recent recognition of the Golden Lion of Merit, an award that, due to its history and prestige, represents one of the highest tributes that can be conferred in the Italian cultural, institutional, and professional landscape. In St. Catharines, Benny is most known for his significant philanthropic activities, most notably his multi-million-dollar commitments to the Niagara Health Foundation and Jillian's Place. So congratulations, Benny, on this prestigious award, and thank you for your continued philanthropy in our community. This Saturday, you can join Team STC to take part in the coldest night of the year, a walk to raise money for local charities serving people experiencing hurt, hunger, and homelessness in our community. Here in St. Catharines, all the funds will support Start Me Up Niagara. You can visit cnoy.org to sign up or to donate to Team STC, and I hope to see everybody out. I believe this year we are located at the Penn Center. I'm seeing nods, so we're at the Penn Center this year, so a little bit different. And on March 25th, join me at my annual State of the City address in partnership with the GNCC. This year's event will take place at Club Roma from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Lunch will be served, and tickets can be found at gncc.ca. I look forward to seeing you all there and celebrating 150 years of St. Catharines. The final thing on my list today will be just with respect to the Regional Governance Review. As has been all over the media for the last couple of days, Chair Gale has sent a letter to Minister Flack asking for the province to come forward with some form of governance change here in Niagara. I did forward that correspondence on to Council and to our regional councillors. It was sent from the chair to the mayors in Niagara. My request to council, and I've had this conversation with a number of you, I don't believe that we would be able to come to a consensus position at this council. That is my belief, having had conversations with many of you and recognizing that there is a diverse set of opinions around the table. With that said, I do believe that there are a number of opinions and that people want to be able to express them. And so my encouragement would be to all members of council, we have the opportunity right now. We all have opinions and we all have access to city letterhead. So I would suggest forwarding all of your thoughts and concerns onto the regional chair and to Minister Flack. There is some time before Regional Chair Gale is going to be putting his thoughts and the collection of the feedback that he receives to the minister. So I would make that suggestion. I don't believe council is the best venue to be having a debate where no consensus position could be reached. And I don't believe it would be fair for those who may be on the opposing view of any motion that was brought from council to then have correspondence sent to Chair Gale indicating a position that is not held by everybody. That's my personal opinion. I will leave it to council to make the decision as to whether they see fit to do that. But I do believe we all have the opportunity to provide feedback at this time, and I think that is the most appropriate course. With that said, I will open the floor to any councillors who want to add to the mayor's report. I have Councillor Dodge up first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff, we have a public meeting that is scheduled for this week for 704 Niagara Street. I'm just wondering if we could get clarification here tonight on what's happening with that, considering what happened with the date and the day, so that people can hear it here first or second or third, I don't know, but we've had a lot of emails going back and forth, so it would be nice to have some clarification so that people know what's going on.
Thank you. Through the mayor to the councillor, this is in regards to a public open house for 704 Niagara Street, where notice that was mailed to property owners in the vicinity of the project had the correct date that the open house would be held tomorrow, February 24th, here in the Burgoyne Room on the 3rd floor of City Hall. Unfortunately, the sign that was put on the property had an incorrect date. So the public open house will continue tomorrow, and in addition, staff will hold a future open house date for people who were confused by the error in the signage and may or may not be able to attend. That second date is going to be March 10th, and a mail out will go to the same property owners within the proximity of that property.
So will there be a reposting at the site again with the proper sign on there? So just for clarification, there's nothing happening on Wednesday night. Tomorrow night is the actual meeting night?
For 704 Niagara Street, the open house is tomorrow night, Tuesday. There is another open house for a different matter on the Wednesday.
Okay, so not for 704. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dodge. Councillor Lindell.
Mr. Mayor, through you, I just want to mention that St. Catharines lifelong resident in Hamilton Tycat, Keaton Bruggerling, made his Olympic debut this past 2 weeks on the 4-man bobsled team. It wasn't the finish that he wanted or his team wanted, but he represented our city very well. And the Olympics are a great way for us to show that as one country, we can all cheer with one voice. And it was a fantastic 2 weeks. Thank you, Keaton.
Excellent, and thank you very much for that reminder, Councillor. Councillor Mako.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight a memo that was in our council correspondence that it wasn't on the council agenda as a consent or discussion report, so it might get missed. And there was just a piece of good news in there, I thought, regarding our Lakeside Park and Sunset Beach washrooms. So I think this was the first report request I had, which was a request I had from a resident to have them open a bit earlier on May 1st, which is earlier than previous years, to align with the start of paid parking. But we have a lot of residents who love walking along the beach, walking along the piers, and the washrooms historically haven't been open that early. So just wanted to say thank you to Director Christie, CRCS staff for making this happen, and the costs associated are within budget. So it's no additional cost to the taxpayer, and they're gonna have access to a service a couple weeks earlier than they have in the past. So thank you. The resident's name was Rose Dorland. So just want to shout out to Rose. It shows you can bring things forward to City Hall, and sometimes we make things happen. So thank you very much.
I would say most of the time, but okay, sometimes. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Maureen Newton and the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress for organizing the Saturday event. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but it's great to see the community come out and continue to support Ukraine. I also want to say I did have the opportunity to stop by the Port Dalhousie 200 event, Winterfest, and it was a great event, and it was nice to see Councillor Barty Mako and Councillor Bruce Williamson helping out. I got to see Councillor Mako doing all the shoveling for the pathways, and I got to see Councillor Williamson on security duty and ensuring that beers were being served appropriately. But I do want to congratulate the committee on a great event. Kelly George, Jonathan Belgrave, Lonnie Patterson, Diane Simsovic, Hank Beekes, Ernie Jodine, the two councillors, and James Nielsen for putting a nice event together, and looking forward to the, I guess there's a summer event coming up as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tomorrow night at the St. George's community, at the St. George's Anglican Church, they are having a concert event. It's a candlelight vigil for Darkest Before the Dawn, and everyone is invited. It starts at 7 p.m. And as well, tomorrow night, there's a downtown public safety meeting at the Performing Arts Center for the Downtown Association. It is open to the public. It's not a town hall. The questions are preloaded, but there is also an opportunity. There, I think, are 7 or 8 social service agencies who will be there in the hallway, in the Algoma lobby, to talk about what they do in the downtown and how they are helping folks. So everyone's invited, and if you can, visit mydowntown.ca and you can register. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I had a fun day last Thursday, February 12th. I went to Sir Winston Churchill School, and they had a job fair, and got to talk to grade 9 and 10 students, and it was good. So hope maybe I gave them some insight, and hopefully they'll listen to some of my wisdom. So also Friday the 13th, I was at Ridley College. There was a hockey team through Hockey Cares, and it was done from Ridley College's James Stewart got this going, and they were from Kugaruk, Nunavik. And I think I pronounced that pretty good. They tried to teach me it. So the youngsters all played hockey. Half of them, it's the first time they've ever been out of this remote community. There's only about 1,000 people live up there. And they've come to Ridley College, and they've been here. And I guess the Ridley College students are going to be going up there, too. And I just saw on the city post that they visited the fire hall yesterday or something and got a treat there. So it was very nice meeting these young people, and it was a fun event. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. I think we were all waiting when you said you went to the Sir Winston Job Fair that maybe you had found a part-time job to keep you occupied during the day. I'm a little disappointed that didn't happen, but okay. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little unclear on the governance issue. I thought we were going to talk about it now. Oh.
No.
When are we doing it? Oh, okay. I'm not aware. Everything's happening fast, so. You know.
I will admit I haven't checked my email, but if there's a motion in there, then I guess we will be dealing with it at some point. The one thing that I neglected to mention, and I apologize, Mr. Oakes and I had the opportunity earlier this week to attend Rodman Hall. And some of you may be aware, but Rodman Hall has recently transformed into Freeport Recovery, which is a trauma-informed, evidence-based addiction treatment program rooted in dignity, accountability, and community. It's operating, as I said, out of Rodman Hall here in St. Catharines, and it's bringing together clinicians, nurses, recovery professionals, and people with lived experience to provide holistic care that supports the whole person. The treatment combines clinical counseling and nursing care with physical training, mindfulness practices, and a structured culinary program to build resilience and discipline. Strong aftercare programming ensures that continued support through personal plans, alumni networks, and ongoing outpatient services is available. By working closely with local partners, Freeport Recovery expands access to high-quality treatment in Niagara, reduces stigma, and helps individuals and families build lasting, meaningful recovery. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Oakes, but I know for myself, it was very moving to be there. They've done a really fantastic job of preserving a beautiful facility, but putting it to a use that I think is desperately needed. This is something we've talked a lot about here at council, and we've talked a lot about in our community. And so I applaud them for taking those steps, and I look forward to the success that Freeport Recovery will have, I am sure. With that, we will move on to the adoption of the agenda, and we will turn things over to the clerk.
We'll discuss item 10.1, overhead structure located above Ontario Street, Regional Road 42, between 285 and 282 Ontario Street, prior to item 9.1, as we have registered delegates to this item. And the following items of additional correspondence have been placed in Council's Sugar Sync folder, and any non-confidential materials will be part of a Council correspondence listing for February 26th, which is found on the city's website. We have one item, which is a confidential memorandum from the Director of Engineering, Facilities, and Environmental Services regarding Seymour Hanna Systems update. And Mayor Cisco has advised he would like to request that Council consider a motion not appearing on the agenda regarding a review of the city's established street naming policy and consider the renaming of Prince Andrew Court. Per Council's Procedure Bylaw, Section 6.4, motions not appearing on the agenda can only be considered if Council votes unanimously in favor of considering the motion. If the motion passes, the motion will be considered after item 9.4. And Councillor Townsend has also advised us that he would like to request that Council consider a motion not appearing on the agenda regarding regional chair correspondence regarding Niagara amalgamation. Again, per Council's Procedure Bylaw, Section 6.4, motions not appearing can only be considered if Council votes unanimously in favor. If the motion passes, the motion will be considered after Mayor Cisco's motion on Prince Andrew Court.
Okay, so the first vote is to consider the motion regarding Prince Andrew Court. I'm moving that motion that it be considered this evening. Is there a seconder to consider this evening? Councillor McPherson. So that in accordance with Procedural Bylaw 2024-155, Section M6.4, Council consider a motion not appearing on the agenda regarding a review of the city's established street naming policy and consider the renaming of Prince Andrew Court. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried unanimously. And then second, moving the motion for the governance review discussion this evening is Councillor Townsend. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Lindell. Then in accordance with Procedural Bylaw 2024-155, Section M6.4, Council consider a motion not appearing on the agenda regarding a conversation with respect to governance reform correspondence from Chair Gale. All those in favor? Opposed? It fails. Councillor McPherson voted against, and it has to be unanimous. So we move on to the adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Councillor Stevens, can I have a seconder? Councillor Lindell, all those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Adoption of the minutes, there are none. Minutes for February 9th, 2026 will be presented for approval on the March 9th, 2026 council meeting. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Motion to move consent reports. The council approve the consent agenda, save and accept those items brought forward for discussion. Can I have a mover of the consent agenda? Councillor Phillips. I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Today's consent agenda has 3 items. Item 6.1, Financial Management Services Procurement, Emergency Procurement of Bulk Sodium Chloride, Road Salt. Item 6.2, Planning and Building Services, Planning Services for 9 Queen Street, Heritage Permit for the demolition of a listed building under Section 27 of the Ontario Heritage Act due to fire. And item 6.3, Planning and Building Services, Planning Services, Class 4 Noise Area for 61 Hastings. Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Mako.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
That's carried.
All right. Declaration to all presenters. Council chambers in all municipalities in our country represent the seat of local democracy. The many acts that govern us understand the necessity of the collective voice when decisions are being made to grow our spaces, pass our bylaws, and to seek opinions into very complex issues, ensuring safe spaces for all in our public discourse. We recognize the right of the majority to decide, the minority to be heard, the public to have an opportunity to participate, and all participants to be treated with courtesy and respect. It is imperative that elected officials, citizens, and staff have input, and it is paramount that we listen to one another and question one another, but that we understand we do this in a way that never undermines any person's ability or their dignity in our chambers. We respect the right for everyone to have an opinion and remind the audience views of the public do not always reflect those of the corporation of the City of St. Catharines. There are no public meetings this evening, so we'll up first. 8.1 is the presentation from Carlos Alvarez, KPMG, the Audit Planning Report. I will call upon Mr. Alvarez, Lead Audit Engagement Partner from KPMG, to present. Mr. Alvarez in person, not just the big floating head on the screen this year. We appreciate you coming down, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Cisco and members of council. My pleasure to present the audit plan for the fiscal 2025 year end. Included in your package would have been the audit planning report, approximately 30 pages long. I will not speak to all 30 pages. I'll speak to about 7 or 8. Where I would like to begin is just in terms of the overall audit highlights. As a reminder, your financial statements are called consolidated because they include many components that together form the consolidated financial statements, and as well that they are prepared under public sector accounting standards. As auditors, we do not audit every single transaction. We do have this concept of materiality that we use to plan and perform the audit. We have set the materiality at approximately $6.6 million. Individually, that's a really big number. We do have a much lower tolerance for audit differences, which I will get into shortly. Moving along in the presentation to the next slide, please. In terms of the public sector accounting rules, it was a very quiet year from a regulatory standpoint. So in terms of how the debits and credits come together, there were no fundamental changes in any of the accounting principles. As well, from an auditing standpoint, in terms of how we perform the audit, there were also no significant changes from an auditing standpoint. Moving forward in the presentation, in terms of that materiality, there is a little bit of science that goes into how we determine what is considered to be material. If there's one number to remember, it is the number on the bottom right-hand side of the slide, and that is our audit misstatement posting threshold. So $360,000 as we perform the audit. If we do uncover any differences that hit that mark of $360,000 or more, we will certainly be bringing those forward for discussion with you when we present the results of the audit. And these benchmarks are consistent with other municipalities in Ontario and elsewhere in Canada. These are very well-known benchmarks that we use. Moving forward in the report, again, within the consolidated framework, this slide lists all of the various components that together form the consolidated audit opinion. We do perform standalone financial statement audits on each one of these at a lower materiality threshold. And we do not rely on any other audit firms, so we as KPMG perform all of the work on all of the components. Moving forward in the report, from a risk standpoint, if you were to thumb through your financial statements, you would recognize, revenues, grants, tangible capital assets as those items that are most significant from a quantitative perspective. I would like to highlight that on every audit in Canada, every audit has the risk of management override of controls. We as auditors have to respond to that risk. For example, the risk that your management team is overly aggressive or overly conservative as it relates to estimates, or in cases where management is approving journal entries where there's no segregation of duties. These are common areas that are audit risks for us as auditors, So we do respond to these risks in our audit file by performing various procedures. One of the most typical ones is looking at manual journal entries. We have a heightened level of skepticism when it comes to manual journal entries. We look to make sure that there is a reviewer that is separate from the preparer, just to make sure that there is that segregation of duties. We also look at all of the estimates, and in our judgment, we will cast our views as to whether or not they are overly aggressive, conservative, or hopefully neutral. Moving forward in the report, from a fraud perspective, fraud does happen with respect to many organizations, both in the for-profit world, but also in terms of the public sector. This slide outlines some of the common questions that you as council should be asking of your management team. Certainly the expectation is that there's a high-functioning control environment. We, as your auditors, certainly are open to any conversations with you if any of you have any concerns around actual fraud or suspected fraud. My contact information is included in the package at the beginning of the report. I would just kindly ask that if you do have any concerns, that you do bring those forward on or before May 1st, 2026. Why did I pick May 1st? Just to make sure that I have enough time to respond to any specific concerns as part of the audit process before we issue a signed auditor's opinion. Moving further into the report, please. Actually, maybe we'll freeze on this page. While I said that there were no accounting changes for this year, I would just like to put on your radar for 2 years' time that the look and the feel of your financial statements will change. Those who set the standards in Canada have decided that the current setup of your financial statements does not meet the needs of users. So there are some common terms that will be lifted from your financial statements. What we will do is that this is not applicable for 2025, nor is it applicable for 2026, but we will work with your management team and provide some illustrative examples as to what you should expect years down the road. In a nutshell, we are expecting a more accelerated timeline in terms of the start of the audit fieldwork all the way to signing the auditor's reports. We expect a clean audit, and certainly we will work with management to set all of the dates for all of the fieldworks. Ideally, for the majority of municipalities in Ontario, they work towards a end of June timeline. So we'll work with management to work towards that mark. The one thing that would be different this year compared to last year is that last year you had the conversion to PeopleSoft. We do not have that similar conversion in the current year. So with that, I will pause and I will send it back to Mayor Cisco.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Alvarez. Are there any questions for Mr. Alvarez regarding the audit process? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation. Can I have a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Harris, Councillor Phillips seconding. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Moving on to item 10.1, overhead structure located above Ontario Street, Regional Road 42, between 285 and 282 Ontario Street. Prior to discussing the motion, council will hear delegations from Gwen Kennedy, Peter Russell, Barbara Skollick, and Lindsay Taylor. Just a few notes for this particular motion. I want to be very clear. Comments that come from residents are not endorsed by City Council. That's important to point out. I know recently, when this motion came forward originally, the mover pulled it back in the hopes that, well, in the understanding that the request for a structural stability report would be done. That was done at the time. I want to make sure that if anybody comes up and makes comments, calling into doubts aspects of that report, that it's very clear, as was stated in the declaration to all presenters, that the opinions of the community do not represent the opinions of City Council. It needs to be very clearly stated, because if people make comments that are potentially actionable, the city should not be implicated in that. Additionally, all comments from the public should be related to the motion itself and not delve into other issues. The motion itself deals very specifically with the public roadway, the safety of the public on the roadway, and the structural stability of the walkway over the roadway. All comments should be limited to that. There are other opportunities for residents to speak to other issues. A few have done so at Town Hall SDC events. This, however, is not the time or place for additional commentary. The comments this evening should be related directly to the motion. With that, I will call up Gwen Kennedy. Actually, I have two councilors. I did not realize. I apologize. Councilor Harris first, and then Councilor Williamson.
I guess to you, Mr. Mayor, my question is in the motion, it mentions something, therefore be it resolved that council directs city staff to work in coordination with NAG region staff and the property owners to review the current condition of the overhead structure. So that's been done?
That's correct.
Okay. So I guess I'm just looking, what is the purpose of the motion?
So I think we will get to that when we get to the discussion of the motion. This is Councilor Williamson's motion. He pulled it back, and he has asked for it to be on the agenda this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Williamson.
Right. To the question of the report, when I agreed to have this delayed, the report was to include the structure, the overall structure, not just the gantry part itself. This was to look at the overall structure. I mean, what's the point of the report if it only is going to deal with one part of it? What it's connected to, they're the weakest links in the chain, and they need to be included in the report, and they were not included in the report.
So, Councilor, with all due respect, your motion reads, review the current condition of the overhead structure, and that's what the report has done. And if they're stating that the structure is stable, it is stable.
They did not comment on the building on the west side, the partially demolished.
Councilor, we're not going to debate. Councilor, we're not going to debate. Councilor, your motion. Councilor, your motion. Councilor, your motion is on the floor. We haven't stopped.
Well, a structure report should include all aspects of it, not just one part
the
of it.
report was done exactly the way you had asked, and if the motion had passed on that night,
No,
the same
I
report would have come forward.
reworded the motion.
Councilor, listen, we have 4 speakers who want to speak to the motion this evening. We're going to let them speak to the motion. You can make your comments when we get to the conversation about the motion. All right. So with that, I will call upon Gwen Kennedy. Ms. Kennedy, the lectern is yours.
Thank you. Mayor Cisco, Mayor Cisco and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Coalition for a Better St. Catharines. I'm here to ask the council to act further on the catwalk and to address the unsafe, unsightly conditions across the entire former GM site.
Ms. Kennedy.
Yes.
You're to speak strictly to the motion, which is about a review of the current condition of the overhead structure.
I understood that I could speak regarding the catwalk.
The overhead structure and the current condition and the review of the current condition of the overhead structure.
Okay, so I can still speak about the catwalk?
That's the overhead structure,
Right.
yes.
Okay. As a mother and resident, I'm deeply concerned over public safety. The overhead structure is sitting on a site that has sat vacant for years. It's not only the overhead structure that's dangerous, it's every structure on the property.
Ms. Kennedy, that is not up for debate this evening. This evening's debate is very clearly centered around the motion as it was written and submitted about the current condition of the overhead structure. We are not speaking to any other aspects of the site. We are not speaking to any other aspects of the property.
With all due respect, Mayor, if the bylaws that we're requesting be reviewed, there wouldn't be a catwalk situation to be worried about.
Ms. Kennedy, there is nothing in this motion that speaks to bylaws being reviewed. That is not the purpose. Mr. Smith, you can leave if you are instructing from the gallery. Mr. Smith, there is not to be any outbursts, and there was a time. Mr. Smith, you are not to instruct people from the gallery. You understand the rules of this chamber. You have been here many times. So, Mr. Smith, you're not to instruct people from the gallery.
In January, our coalition collected over 1,200 petition signatures urging the city to enforce the situation regarding the overhead structure.
Ms. Kennedy, I'm going to ask
I can't
the
even
council
talk
coordinator. No, ma'am. There is a motion. It speaks specifically to reviewing the current condition of the overhead structure.
Right.
This is not about the petition. A motion was passed several meetings ago asking for staff to report back on that. There will be a time to speak on that at this time. This is strictly to the request to review the current condition of the overhead structure. There is nothing in the whereas clauses, there is nothing in the therefore be it resolved clauses that has anything to do with anything other than the roadway, the structure, and the safety of residents on the roadway or the sidewalks. That is the entirety of the motion.
Thank you. In view of that, I would like to just skip to my last paragraph on my page. I'm in agreement with Mr. Williamson in saying that delaying enforcement of the structure, you've already said that we cannot speak to the quality of the engineer's report or the totality of the engineer's report. I just want to say
you can speak to the report if you wish. It is directly related to the overhead structure.
Okay. The people that signed our 1,200 signatures on our petition asked us to make it safe. They didn't say how exactly to make that happen. They didn't say just look at the catwalk or look at the overhead structure, but they said please make us safe. We stood outside a Fresco in January in the freezing cold, and I mean it was freezing cold.
Ms. Kennedy, this is not about the petition. I said you could speak to the report that is directly related to this, but you are not doing that. So if you're not going to speak to it, then we'll have to end the delegation, because the delegation and our procedural bylaws are very clear on this, that you are to speak to the motion that is on the floor.
If the overhead structure collapses, if the engineering report is not total or is not complete, or if anything happens to anyone, it would be tragic but predictable. The site already attracts youth, and the photos show how dangerous it is. When a city knows of a hazard and fails to act, this inaction carries moral and legal risk. In the upcoming fall election, we'll be looking to you all for leadership. Thank you.
Ms. Kennedy, there may be some questions.
I'm sorry. First time.
It's totally understandable. Councillor Harris.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter. So we have the report on the catwalk. Is it, I'm trying to word this without, you're looking for more of a holistic report on the entire site. I'll just leave it at that, right?
Correct.
Well, the site, how it's, yes, okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, for coming in tonight. When were you first made concerned about the safety implication of this specific catwalk, whatever we're calling it?
I mentioned it in a town hall meeting back 2 town hall meetings ago, back in, I think it was October. I was cognizant that every time I drove underneath it, I thought, I wonder what time, when's that last been checked for anything? When has it been safe? And that's when I mentioned it in my town hall notes to the mayor at the time, and said, when was the last time the catwalk had been inspected?
Thank you. Thank you for that. My other question is, with you seeing this removed, if we can somehow ask the current private owner to remove this, that you're saying would be a starting point for, to alleviate some of the safety concerns that you're feeling.
It would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Councillor Williamson.
Ms. Kennedy, if you had to hire an engineer to do a structure report on a table, would you assume that the structure report would just include the surface of the table or the table and the legs of the table?
I would assume that the table, I would check to see what the foundation looks like on the table to start with. where the table's being built and whether or not that's a sound and stable environment, recognizing that everything going up to that top level of the table is reflective on its weakest point.
Thank you.
Councillor Phillips.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the engineer's report, which has been stamped by a professional engineer, is there anything, I'm sure you've read the report, is there anything in that specific report that concerns you?
I don't feel that it properly addressed everything that one would ask. If I was purchasing a home, I guess I'm just saying, if I was purchasing a home, I would want someone to tell me what was happening with the foundation of the home. And I wouldn't accept, you know, if I looked at a home and asked for a home inspector, I would expect him to look at the foundation up if I was looking for him to make me safe.
Well, I'm not sure that as far as the way that the catwalk, the term you used, which I think is right, the way it's attached or built or built into the building, I would imagine that they would look at that. They're not going to look at the building that's 100 feet away type of thing.
Right.
That doesn't have any bearing on the catwalk. But I
Right.
can imagine that the professional engineer would look to ensure that the way it's connected to the building, that it would be safe. But okay, I just wanted to see if there's anything in particular that you're concerned about.
I just
Thank
think
you.
that for 8 years now, we've been asking to have this type of thing addressed, and I would really hope that the council can make this the year. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. I'll now call upon Peter Russell to speak. Mr. Russell, the lectern is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm a little confused on now what I can speak to and what I can't speak to. The overhead structure, so can I speak to the report on the overhead structure?
The structural report, definitely.
Okay.
It'd be entirely relevant to this time.
I believe it says in the report, it's for their own use only. It's not to be used by anybody else. Now, if I'm going to, I don't know why council or the city didn't get their own engineer to go out and do that and then put that on the property owner. It's like having the fox look after the hen house. If I want a great report coming back to me, I'm going to hire my people. To me, it doesn't make sense, but I don't know how everything works here at City Hall. But anyways, I was going to present a petition for 282 and 285 Ontario Street General Motors, but I guess I'm not allowed to do that.
I will say, Mr. Russell, you will have every opportunity to speak when that report comes back, and we would welcome your presentation at that time.
Okay, thank you. I would like to just go way back in time, 2019, just before COVID or during COVID. We had a petition back then, and council, I'll give you credit, Ms. Porter asked for $125,000 to delve into a few things on the property. One was apparently $30,000 for security on the property for 1 month. The other was $40,000 to hire a law company in Toronto, Gowling Report.
So, Mr. Russell,
Yes.
if this isn't directly related to the overhead structure, then we can't continue because that's not the subject of the motion.
Okay, I thought I'd just slip that in anyways.
I figured as much, and I figured I'd give you the opportunity to complete your sentence.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
I try to be polite even when we're being confrontational.
Appreciate it. Okay. Well, I think, council, you know where I'm coming from this. It's just, this gantry thing, it should be removed. The cost of taking this gantry down with a crane and having traffic diverted around the community so the community can see the backside of GM and the boarding and everything else, that's ridiculous. That'd be worth 2 hours of my time to get out there and direct people. So So with a crane and 4 welders, that thing is down in probably 2 hours. Somebody cuts it up and somebody makes money. There's no cost to the city or anything. And I know we'll be back with the bylaws. I know the city knows their bylaws and what we're going to speak to. But, okay, that's all I've got to say. If there's anything you'd like me to speak
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Russell. And just for clarity, because it's been raised a couple of times, city staff inspected the overhead structure in 2021 and was found that there were no concerns at the time. At this time, I will call Barbara Skollick to speak. Ms. Skollick, the lectern is yours.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I'm asking myself why I am here. I am here as myself, I am a member of the coalition, but I am not here representing them. I'm representing me, because I will tell you, I moved here 10 years ago, and I remember driving down Ontario Street and seeing the catwalk across the building and wondered why it was there. 10 years have gone by. I've never seen anybody on it, but every time I go by, I wonder when there's going to be an accident. I'm horrified when I think of the traffic, the buses, the transit, the school buses, people's cars, cyclists, pedestrians. What are you going to do if the damn thing falls down? You have to deal with it, and the city has to deal with it. And quite frankly, you have the power to do something about it. My understanding is we elect council to look after public safety. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge public safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skollick. Councilor Williamson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Ms. Skollick. Yeah, there's a difference. Do you think we need to make a distinction between the removal of this remnant from the industrial era versus, because it's over a public roadway and represents risk, versus other structures? And we could have a debate on whether they should not be removed or not. But this one is a little bit different because it's over a busily traveled roadway.
We have to start somewhere, Mr. Williamson. And I've been told, or everybody else has been told, we're discussing the catwalk. And that is something that I specifically noted when I moved here. I'm not mentioning the rest of the crap that's there. I'm only mentioning the catwalk. But just think if it fell on Ontario Street, what would it do to traffic? Never mind people getting killed, but just think about Ontario Street that was ruined with that falling, and how long would it take to put it back together again? And that impacts on the business in this city. Have I answered your question? Oh, good.
All right, seeing no other questions, thank you, Ms. Skollick, for your presentation. At this time, I will call on Lindsay Taylor to speak via Zoom.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a little under the weather today, and I'm hopefully speaking directly to the motion. And of course, please stop me if I'm not. My name is Lindsay Taylor. I'm a resident and environmental professional and someone who has spent a great deal of time on the Ontario Street Brownfield site, both as part of my education and as a pedestrian. Tonight, I'm speaking in support of the motion presented by Councillor Williamson and seconded by Councillor Mako. Years ago, I participated in a site visit at the old GM property as part of a practice Phase 1 ESA led by the late Patrick Robson, former city planner, educator, and mentor, someone who deeply influenced how I think about sustainable cities. During that visit, he mentioned that keeping the existing overpass could reduce permitting complexity if a future developer wanted to incorporate it into redevelopment plans. From a purely administrative standpoint, this is true. It may be easier to work with something that already exists. But administrative convenience isn't, in my opinion, a sufficient reason to retain aging infrastructure. About 10 years ago, I used to walk under that bridge regularly from downtown when I worked at Sitel. The whole stretch already felt disconnected and underutilized, but that structure in particular always made me feel uneasy. I remember feeling like I had to rush under it so nothing would fall on my head. Walking that route alone always carried a sense of vulnerability, and the condition and atmosphere of the overpass intensified that feeling. It doesn't contribute positively to the space, it doesn't feel inviting, and the perception of safety matters in areas we're trying to revitalize. If we're serious about transforming brownfield sites into healthy, functional spaces, we shouldn't hold on to aging infrastructure simply because it might save paperwork someday, as suggested by Professor Robinson. I'm incredibly proud of this council for taking public safety seriously, calling for a full structural assessment, and if necessary, placing the removal on the property owner is both reasonable and responsible. It is a prime example of good governance. The only thing I would add to this motion is that if a future developer wants to incorporate a pedestrian bridge into a well-designed redevelopment plan, the city should ensure that regulatory pathway is clear and efficient. We shouldn't preserve something that may no longer serve the community, but we also shouldn't create unnecessary hurdles for good design in the future. Taking steps like this demonstrates that even on long-standing files, progress is possible. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for the presentation. Are there any questions for Ms. Taylor? All right, seeing none, thank you for the presentation. Can I have a motion to receive the delegations? Councillor Lindell, Councillor Harris, all those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. At this time, moving the motion, I have Councillor Williamson, and seconding I have Councillor Mako. Councillor Williamson, did you want to speak first to the motion? If you want to speak first, we can open up your mic. You're now open, so.
Well, if the decision is going to hinge on whether we have a full comprehensive report on the components that hold the sides of the structure up, I'd like to defer it until we get that report, which to me doesn't seems to be a waste of money, but I can do that if that's the will of council.
But I'm a little bit confused. There is no further report coming. We have a report that says that the bridge is structurally sound and in good condition. Both vehicle and pedestrian access below the bridge is safe given its condition. That's what the report says.
Okay. Well, the report that I expected to get was a comprehensive report that covered what is connected to as well. So what we got is insufficient and doesn't.
Okay, so then if you want a more comprehensive, then your motion, I would argue, the motion that is before us is out of order because it doesn't represent what you're looking for. Like if you're asking for a more fulsome report, that's not represented by the motion that's in front of us. The motion in front of us says, review the current condition of the overhead structure, and if warranted, take any remedial action by December 1st, 2026. The report that the property owner submitted to the city says that the utility bridge is structurally sound and in good condition. Both vehicle and pedestrian access below the bridge is safe given its condition. All of the whereas clauses deal with the safety of pedestrians and the roadway. So if there's more that you're asking for, it's not captured in this motion. Because the report directly deals with what is here.
Yeah, well, it wasn't what I expected. I expected a report that would cover the legs of the table as well as the tabletop.
So I would argue, and I didn't write the report, so I don't know if I can necessarily argue, but if you're going to declare that a bridge is structurally sound and in good condition, and that it's safe for vehicle and pedestrian access below the bridge given its condition, they've looked at the whole bridge.
But they haven't looked at the building, the half-demolished building on the west side that it's attached to. That's the weak link.
But you couldn't declare that the bridge was safe for both vehicle and pedestrian access below the bridge. You can't declare that safe if it can't stand up.
No engineer has put a stamp on the structural integrity of the building that it's attached to on the west
Counselor,
side.
listen, I'm not going to argue with you about what engineers do and don't do. If you'd like to change your motion, you need a different motion. But right now, the motion that you have is the motion on the floor, and we have a report that addresses directly the motion that you have on the floor.
I'll defer to my seconder if he would like to say something.
Can we open Counselor Mako's mic? Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Mayor. I am happy to refer for a comprehensive staff report, including not just the structural integrity of the catwalk, but also the attachment points.
You can't refer this for a staff report on the things that the motion is asking for.
Then,
folks, like
okay.
the motion. Okay, folks, stop talking from the gallery. Thank you. Or else we'll clear the gallery, and I don't want to do that. The motion right now says something very specific. You can amend the motion, you can change the motion, but you can't leave the motion as it is and expect for something different from what came back. I would also say that the second clause, if council wants to go forward with an amended motion, the second clause asking the owner to pay for an additional report when the owner's already paid for a report based on exactly what was asked for is problematic. So I'm going to leave it to council to make a decision as to what they want to do with this motion. But you made a request. The owner went and fulfilled the request that's in the motion without needing to be without a motion being passed. They paid for it. Now you're asking for something different, and you're asking them to pay for it again. Okay. So.
Okay.
I'm going to go through my speakers list at this point. I don't consider either the mover or the seconder to have spoken at this point. Like, I'm not taking your speaking rights away at this point. I think we're trying to clarify. I'll go to Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the presenters tonight. And, you know, one thing that I think is important to be heard tonight is that there's a safety concern. And it's important to hear what residents have to say about this. Ms. Taylor, when she spoke, I agreed with her. When I drive underneath this structure, I do feel unsafe, and I actually do speed up, whether you believe it or not, it is true. Hearing residents is important, similar to on other issues like governance, but that's, you know, it's a different issue. Won't get down that path. I'm wondering if a friendly amendment could be made to direct staff to work with the owner on potential steps on having it removed. I understand there is an engineer's report. I do have some concerns with that report. I'm not an engineer. But I'm wondering if that can be seen as friendly language, direct staff to work with the property owner to see what steps could be taken to have it removed, if that's a possibility. To the movers?
Yeah, the trouble is it doesn't have any kind of timeline on it.
Can we open Councillor Williamson's mic so he can? No, we have to open it separately. It's okay, Councillor.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've muddied the waters already, and my original intent was to deal with this and have a timeline to have it removed, but I'll accept it in lieu of the fact that we've got a report that is got a major omission in it. And that's fine. I don't know if, well, let's keep the same timeline, December 1st, 2026, with the target date of December 1st, 2026. Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, Councillor Townsend, does that properly reflect what you were asking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Councillor Harris.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess the thing is, I understand the whole idea of this motion, but they've done the report on the bridge, so do you keep it in there? That's the first question. When it's not a bridge, it's a catwalk that was meant for steam pipe, but do you leave it in there? Or, because I think, like, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants the site cleaned up. So I think what people are trying to get here is maybe direct staff to engage the owner to actually get some sort of timeline when construction's going to happen or further demolition.
So if the property owner at the present time can't provide a timeline, where does that leave us, Councillor? Because I guess that's the question.
But then we could have that back, and we could say he's not providing a timeline. Like, there is no timeline because he's not ready to demolish anymore.
Okay, so I think that's what the clause that Councillor Townsend has kind of asked for. I think that's essentially it, is,
Okay. But then what do we do with direct city staff to work with coordination with the region and the property owners to review the current condition? Because it's been reviewed. They take that out.
I would argue, if I look to Mr. CAO, I would argue that staff would take that to mean exactly what they did, and it's been accomplished.
So you can take that out then if this is a new motion. I think they would agree with me.
So I don't disagree with you. It would make sense.
Whoa.
This is a very different motion if you take that clause, and I assume the third clause now out. It's, because if you take the first clause, therefore clause.
You still have to work with them, but like you've already determined okay, to review the current condition which has been done.
I would argue, I think what Councillor Harris is trying to say is, if your goal is to have the overhead structure removed, that first therefore be it resolved clause actually is not necessary. Like, I think the red clause is the one that you're actually looking for. If that's the ultimate goal, so then, Councillor, would you, and Seconder, would you be willing to take out that first clause? Okay. I'm seeing. And then I would also argue that I don't believe anybody on council is arguing that we should be paying for this. So I don't know if the costs paid clause is necessary either.
I would just leave it.
I mean, you can leave it, it's redundant.
But
unless council makes a motion to pay the costs to remove it, it's a redundant motion.
I just leave it.
Well, we would not, what I'm saying is unless this council at some point made a motion to pay the cost to remove it, then the council would not pay it. Like, the city wouldn't pay for it. So it's a redundant motion, especially given what you have written right before it. Which I think is what Councillor Harris is trying to get at. Am I right, Councillor Harris?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I have no problem leaving that in.
Sure.
The thing that, from listening to everybody speak, there seems to be a request, like Councillor Williamson and Councillor Mako, they want some sort of report that also states the condition of the other buildings. Because I guess there's some sort of, people might think they're gonna fall down, or like, can we incorporate that somehow? Like a condition of the other buildings, just to ask the landlord for a condition? I would think they have some sort of report on the condition of those buildings. I would think for their site, I would hope. I'm just asking, would that be a friendly amendment to put that in there?
My focus first was...
Hold on, let me turn mine off.
My focus was singularly about getting this gantry removed. That was first step. I think we need to deal with the other stuff separately.
I was going to say, can I make a suggestion that we leave this as it is for now? We take this step. I think that gets to the heart of, Councillor Williamson, what you want to see out of this motion. And we can deal with other pieces at a later date. Like, let's not muddy the waters. I think this is a clear motion. And I think it achieves what Councillor Williamson is looking for. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Councillor Kushner. All right, we will come back to Councillor Kushner in a moment. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question to staff. Our agenda came out for this meeting on Friday the 13th, correct? And council got this report, was emailed to us on February 5th, that they received on February 3rd, correct? So it seems like we wasted a lot of time on this, because this report from the engineer who's certified and the president of the company, and I don't think he's going to sign something that he's going to be held responsible for if some bad thing happens. This report answered exactly what Councillor Williamson's request was. So in that time frame of all this, February 5th, the 3rd, the 13th, he could have got rid of that motion and changed it to get what he wanted instead of basically we wasted all this time on something that's already been done and said. And like, I guess that's what they always say, common sense isn't that common anymore.
Okay. Counselors, I'm going to ask you, this topic is always contentious. It is always contentious, but we do not need to take shots. That's not appropriate. I'm asking if we can keep it civil. I understand that there are different opinions on this. I can understand frustrations on all sides. I'd like us to be able to get through this. We have a balance of an agenda we need to get through, so let's try and do that in a civil tone. Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you. I just, some clarity about the first, or sort of the second whereas clause, just because we're talking about a regional road and a catwalk that emanates from private property. So what is the city's responsibility here?
I believe the statement is a general statement about the city and the region being responsible for maintaining public roadways.
So are we responsible for maintaining regional roads?
No, the region would be responsible for the regional road. We would be responsible for this. I think it was a general statement, if I understand it. So, and that's
okay.
The
so
sidewalks
the sidewalk
are
part
the city,
of it. Okay.
So.
Has the region been involved at all, or what's their stance?
That's a great question. I don't actually know.
Okay, that might be a good place for things like petitions and advocacy as well, right? Because ultimately this is a regional road. So, okay, so our responsibility is to keep the sidewalks safe here. Okay, all right, that's good enough. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. We'll try Councillor Kushner. All right, I'm going to come back. I have Councillor McPherson, and we'll come back to Councillor Kushner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would it be appropriate to ask the Director of Planning to comment on the engineering report that was received, seeing as I'm not an expert in such things?
I would normally say no, and I would look to the
engineering. Or the engineering.
I don't know who is more comfortable, and I don't want to take away that I have a lot of faith in the Director of Planning, but I don't want to. Just he has engineering in his title, so I don't.
Yes,
let's give it to Ms. Kate,
Great.
and then if Mr. Martuccio wants to add to it, but Ms. Kate.
I don't think he does, but thank you.
Thank you. Through the mayor to the ward councillor, is there an aspect you'd like me to speak to?
Just, I guess, you know, I've read the report. I am not an engineer, nor do I play one on TV, although sometimes. But I guess, the report seems to be very clear to me, because there were some questions about, does the report include what it's attached to on either end? Just from your experience in planning and general experience and knowledge, does the report satisfy concerns that you would have or not have?
Thank you. So through the mayor to the ward councillor, the impetus for the structural assessment report was when the motion was first tabled. Mm-hmm. So the property owner retained a qualified structural engineer to undertake an assessment to meet the needs of that motion. The gantry itself, we refer to it as a gantry. I understand yes. The community calls it a catwalk. On the east side, on the 282 Ontario Street side, is actually a freestanding structure that has its own foundation. It crosses Ontario Street, being a regional road, and then connects to the roof structure of the existing building at 285 Ontario Street on the west side. It would have been the responsibility of that qualified person to review the structural integrity of the entire gantry system, including what it's fastened to. But that scope does not include the entirety of the building that exists at 285. They were also located in a boom. They went up in a boom truck. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just a from the sidewalk visual inspection. They were up above, ensuring that how the gantry was connected to the building was also safe, and that there was no movement present, that there was no substantial, say, structural cracks or something that was present. And if they had seen anything of concern, they would have had a duty to report that back to the city's building department.
Okay, thank you. And in the recommendations that the engineering company provided, or the report they were provided, it says the overhead utility bridge is structurally sound and in good condition. Both vehicle and pedestrian access below the bridge is safe given its condition. Is that something an engineering company would include as a, a throwaway line, or is I'm assuming that their expertise and knowledge and their engineering licensing, I guess, is that something someone would say without being certain?
Through the mayor to the councillor, that level of definitive language coupled with a PNG stamp would signify to me that they are confident in making those statements.
Okay, thank you. Just to, I guess we all want the site cleaned up. We all want to see some action. We want to see it be safe for the neighborhood. I certainly do. I know my ward mate, Councillor Ratzlaff, and I, both have spoken to lots of people living in and around it. I guess, I think it's a, I think what was requested has been proven. Putting a timeline on it, sure. My concern is what happens if they don't meet the timeline. What are we going to do? Is there, what's the plan if they don't meet the deadline? Thank you.
Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, and I appreciate what Director Cathay just gave us, because that clarified a lot of questions about the stability of the structure on the west side in regards to the engineering report. The engineering company is, and talking with Director Martuzio before, this is not a fly-by-night engineering company. They're a very, very respected company, so it's not a case where they've gone to find somebody. And if you're an engineer, you're not going to put a stamp on it anyways, because that's your livelihood. I think the suggestion that Councillor Townsend has made and accepted by Councillor Williamson is the way to go. I would be very surprised if the property owner said, yeah, sure, I'll pay for it. That's something that this council is going to have to discuss later, because the property owner is just going to go back and say, I paid for an engineer's report, and the engineer said it's safe. Why do I need to replace it? So if it's something we want done, I've got a feeling it's going to cost us money to do it, and council, or the next council, will have to decide whether that's this way we're going to get things done. I think everybody in this horseshoes would love to see not only that removed, but the whole darn site cleaned. But I think that's something we're going to have to see in the future. But I'd support the way it is right now, as far as what Councillor Townsend suggested.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Kushner, are you able to jump in if you wanted to provide comment? All right, we will move on. I will just provide, I have no more speakers in the queue. I just want to check. Councillor Williamson, you wanted to speak?
Thank you. And I've prepared some notes here, and I don't apologize for that. I like to be prepared sometimes on important issues. Fact is, we have an aging overhead gantry. It's obvious to most people who look at it that it's a hazard suspended over a busy roadway. And I've heard from dozens and dozens of people since the issue arose, and nobody I talked to thought it would be a good idea to keep it up. It doesn't serve any purpose. It simply needs to come down. And our primary responsibility is to ensure public safety and manage risk. That's what the last report was about, managing financial risk. I've already had the discussion about the fact that the report that I requested is not the report that we have, and it did not inspect the building on the west side. Let's be clear about that. There's no engineer stamp on that building. And that is the weak point. There's no doubt about it. Have you seen pictures of it? It's half the back side of that is missing. And the report says that the attachment point on that building is the same location as whatever previous gantry had been there. So it's not necessarily new, and those buildings were built around the turn of the century. I just happened to see an old aerial photo of the site on vintage St. Catharines or something. So we have no report on the stability of the two connecting sides. There's commentary about the pier on the east side. Looks okay, but they did not actually do an analysis. So to suggest, it's just pure speculation to suggest that the buildings that it's attached to on the side are sound. We don't have any information.
Oh, okay, I got through, Evan.
Councillor Williamson, do you mind pausing for a second? Councillor Kushner, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm finally unmuted, Mr. Mayor. And my comment was, when I looked at the development proposals for the site, I did not see any overhead connection between the west and the east. Is that correct?
Councillor, I don't believe we have any development proposals that have come forward at this time for.
Okay, but I recall
in previous iterations, conceptual drawings that may have been drawn. I believe you're correct. I don't remember ever seeing a connection across the street, and that you are correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comment is similar to that from Councillor Williamson, that perception is extremely important. We've had many members of the community come and tell us that they feel unsafe with the building. And I believe the engineers when they put the stamp on and they say the building is safe. But it's a safe building, but it doesn't have to be does not have to be there. And all it does is create anxiety, and it's going to have to come down someday. In my opinion, the sooner the better. So I would have supported the original motion, but I'll now support the motion as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Williamson, I'm going to let you finish up with your comments.
Abbreviate some things here. Also, the problem with the building on the west side, it's abandoned, it's derelict, and we've seen what has happened to buildings that are abandoned. They have fires, they have events that happen. So the whole structure is, that's the weak link. If something happens to that and there's something, we can maybe say that it's, or speculate that it's safe now, but something is like, could very well happen to that, which would compromise the whole structure. To me, the best way to minimize risk, and that's what we should be doing here, is to get a plan of action to safely remove it as soon as possible. There's no point in waiting for something to happen. It serves no purpose. And we have made the distinction, this is over public land and where people travel regularly, so it's important to make that distinction. It's not on the private property. It doesn't require, well, it will require us to go onto the edges of the property, whoever the contractor is, to remove it. This is, as Councillor Townsend pointed out, removal of this is a logical next step in making some visible progress towards some, hopefully some good things happening on the rest of the site. And regardless of who pays for it, I mean, I would prefer the city not have to upfront the money to pay for it and then try and get it through however we negotiate the development. But it's going to have to be that somebody gets hired with specialized skills and equipment, and it's an unavoidable expense. This is not an incremental expense. It's going to add to the cost of the development. It's something that's going to have to be done regardless of who does it, and it's the best way to decrease risk. And it will cost us more money if it does come down and we have to react to it after it's already, or there's some damage done to it, instead of having a plan to safely remove it. So the sooner this gets done, the better, and I prefer that we do pass this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. I will speak briefly and then we will call the roll. I'm going to go back to the report that was submitted that states that the bridge is structurally sound and in good condition, and that both vehicle and pedestrian access below the bridge is safe given its condition. Ms. Kate kind of touched on it, but when an engineer goes in and says that it's that vehicle and pedestrian access below the bridge is safe given its condition, that no engineer worth their salt is going to put a PN stamp on top of that if they don't believe that that structure is going to stay up. If it fell, one of the presenters made a comment, if it fell, it would be an absolute disaster. Also, based on the engineering report, entirely unlikely that that's the situation. If any building falls on a road, it's a disaster, and nobody wants to see that happen. But again, in this case, the engineer has come forward and very clearly stated this. Now, with that all said, hands up, everybody in the room who wants to see this structure remain. Oh, I thought I saw a hand go up. Nobody wants to see the structure remain. It would make no sense to see that overhead structure remain. Everybody wants to see the site improved and moved forward. I'm comfortable passing this motion. I think it actually gets to the heart of what the goal of all of us in the community is. And again, I don't think a single member of this council is happy with the state of the site. I've described it during the last election campaign. I described it as a scar on the city. I think most members, Councillor Williamson, I think would agree with that statement. I think Councillor Mako would agree with it. I think Councillor Stevens would agree with it. I think we would all agree with it. Nobody is particularly happy with the state of that site. We're going to continue to try and work with the property owners. We're going to look forward to the opportunity that at some point development may bring to this. We're going to do the things that are within our control, the secondary plan that we embarked on this year, and put dollars behind as opposed to waiting to try and move forward and make sure that when this site is eventually purchased and developed, it will be a residential site, so it'll be fully remediated, because as I said at the town hall the other night, the end goal has to be the full remediation of the site. It's not simply taking down an overhead structure or knocking down a building. The folks in the neighborhood, frankly, would be disgusted if all we did was make sure a building got knocked down and a gantry came down. They want to see the site rehabilitated. They want to see it remediated. The secondary plan is our best opportunity to do that. And we're going to work with whatever developer may come forward. We're going to work with the property owner in any way that we can to try and make it happen. But the one comment that this council has been very clear about up to this point is we don't want to take on financial liability. So I'm comfortable moving and passing this motion because I think it actually, as I said, gets to the heart of what everybody in the community wants. But I think I would be remiss in not stating very clearly to anybody in the gallery, anybody at home watching, the media, to whoever is listening, that every member of this council is committed to getting this property dealt with, getting it redeveloped, getting it cleaned up, and getting it put into a state that the community can be proud of. Because right now, it's not there, and we all agree with that. With that, I'll look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
Councillor Mako.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
That's carried.
Item 9.1, Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, Housing Accelerator Fund Year 2 Review. Prior to discussion on this report, I will look to Brian York, the Director of Economic Development and Tourism Services, and Natasha McDonald, Senior Project Manager, Housing Accelerator Program, to provide a presentation.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and members of Council. This evening's Year 2 Housing Accelerator Fund update is a strong success story made possible through collaboration across every city division, rooted in the mayoral direction that all staff adopt a solution lens toward development applications. It's an all-hands-on-deck team here. Natasha McDonald, Senior Project Manager, will now lead you through a presentation and highlight how the program is producing tangible results and accelerating housing development throughout St. Catharines. Natasha.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Cisco, and thank you, Brian, for the introduction. So, as Brian mentioned, we're here to talk about the second year of the HAF program, and it's been a really successful year. Before I get into the nitty-gritty success pieces, I did just want to take a moment to highlight the objective of the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund program, which is essentially to accelerate housing units. We want to get housing units built. We want to remove barriers to building housing in the city. We want to provide a range of housing units for the city and its residents, and we want to support sustainable communities. So one of the key pledges that we entered into with CMHC when we received funding from the feds was that we would deliver 2,382 housing units within the half period, so being February 2024 to March 2027. The half program is split up into a few different years, and then half year 2 just wrapped up February 2026. So this past year, if you've noticed the CMHC reports for housing starts over the last year, 2025 was a milestone year for the city. We issued significantly more permits than in the last 9 years, last 9-year average. So we exceeded our year 2 target of 715 units. We issued permits for 1,025 net new units, which exceeded our target by over 300 units. And again, just want to emphasize the success of last year's numbers compared to a 2024 that had severe challenges in the market and various variables that made it really hard to get those permits. So last year was a big success. Number of reasons why, one of which being the investments that we were able to put into the city through the HAF program. Now, in terms of where we're at for our overall housing target for the HAF program, we're shy about 900 units, so that's something we have to make up within the next year. We do have very good momentum over the last year. We've got about 500 units that we're expecting permits within the next month or so, and then larger projects later in the year. So we are hopeful, and if we receive that year 3 funding, which we will find out within the next couple of weeks, if we get our year 3 funding, fingers crossed, if we're able to get that funding, then that's gonna help us kind of close that gap and reach our targets. So to date, we've received $12.84 million in HAF funds. Over the last year for the year 2 program, we spent just over $9 million, and the remaining $3.8 million have either been spent or have been committed for consultant projects as well as financial incentives for projects across the city. And again, hopefully we'll receive year 3 funding. That would be another $6.4 million within the next few weeks. So one of the main items that we were able to fund with our HAF fund is financial incentives. And these were financial incentives that were largely created as part of the year 1 HAF program. So council has approved various housing financial incentives to target affordable housing, accessible housing, accessory dwelling units, rental units, as well as downtown units, converting vacant spaces to residential. And so in total, we've spent $4.52 million on these financial incentives. So significant support, over 1,000 units. Very, very key piece of our HAF program. And so I do want to take a moment to just highlight one of the HAF financial incentive programs, and that's the ADU grant, or accessory dwelling unit grant. Many of you are probably really familiar with this grant because it's been extremely popular. $4.4 million have been allocated to fund interior and detached ADUs, and it's really working as intended by adding that gentle intensification through ADUs, well distributed throughout the city. So this map here shows where those ADU grants are located within the city. So the kind of blue, purple clusters are areas where 1 to 3 grants have been approved, and the yellow and red clusters are where up to 7 ADUs have been approved. And the program has received a lot of positive feedback. Thankfully, a lot of people are recognizing that the grant is working as intended. We're getting units, and it's been a success story, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that within the next year. So over the last 2 years, we've been able to complete 31 of 32 HAF action plan items, so significant progress over the last couple years. Our one remaining milestone is on track to being completed this year. And part of our half kind of portfolio is policy and process modernization. So over the last year, we launched the Downtown Forgivable Loan Program, where we're able to target vacant upper level units in existing buildings to create new residential units downtown. We're also expanding our e-permitting for planning applications and expanding our civic maps tool. The Municipal Development Corporation, of course, is a half initiative that was established within the last couple of years. Over the last year, 5 surplus city lands were transferred to the MDC to support residential development, and progress is underway for downtown partnership at 6-8 Academy. They just got their demo permit, and so we're looking forward to a rental project within the next year or so. Other half portfolios are infrastructure and climate resilience. So over the last year, progress has been made for our sanitation capacity monitoring and growth areas, looking at what's our capacity, what do we need to accommodate future growth. And we've also partnered with the Sunset Beach renovation project team as kind of a pilot project to look at green infrastructure features, bioswales, what have you. And we're hoping to use this to inform policy direction, site plan manual, official plan policies to support those climate resilient communities. And so over the last year, there has been a lot of engagement with various stakeholders. So we went to the Niagara Home and Garden Show. We attended some Niagara Home Builders Association events and Ontario Home Builders Association panel that staff were involved in. A lot of meetings with housing providers, development community, members of the public, and this has really helped shape how we monitor and evaluate our programs, as well as how we report to CMHC, because part of our reporting requirements is making sure that our half action plan aligns with community needs. So our half year 2 review does demonstrate that we are generating housing supply within kind of throughout the city and targeting a variety of housing dwelling types, which is exactly what we want. You know, we've made excellent progress. We have really good momentum right now with that forecasted permits. Hopefully we'll be able to reach our half housing target, especially if we get that year 3 funding. But it's also been contributing to working towards our larger housing target, being our 11,000 unit housing pledge to the province to have those units by 2031. So making progress towards there, but we've got a sustained permit pace. Yeah, still more work to do. And finally, I just want to mention that the HAP program is a really collaborative it's combined effort with staff, agencies, elected officials, you know, BIA, committees of council, housing providers. It's really all hands on deck. And yeah, I hope that I'll be here next year to talk about year 3 successes. Thanks.
Thank you. Can I get a councillor to move the recommendation of the report, please? Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Ratzlaff. Thank you very much. Staff, questions, comments?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kushner, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Couldn't see you. I don't have eyes in the back of my head. Sorry, Councillor.
Okay, the question I have, this is a lot of good news. What is the tax impact of this program in terms of increased tax revenues?
To the mayor through the councillor, that is not something that staff have taken the time to calculate, but it's an excellent question and definitely something we'll tackle.
Okay, and the second question I have is with respect to accessory units. My experience has been that people that put in accessory units and then try to sell their homes are much more effective than those that don't. So the question I have, how many accessory units have we had?
Through the mayor to the councillor. So as far as the ADU grant goes, we've approved 85 just within the last 2 years.
Right.
Sorry?
Right, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
And the follow-up question is, when people ask me about how it works, I'm not sure how to explain it. Could you please explain it in a few words?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the accessory dwelling unit grant, essentially you can apply for up to 70% of eligible project costs, and you would get a maximum of 40 grand if it's an interior ADU. So a basement apartment's usually what we see, or up to $80,000 if you put a detached ADU on your property.
Right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Kushner. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you have any numbers of any of the ADUs that are looking forward for 2026? Do you have any of those numbers, roughly?
Through the mayor to the councillor, we do currently have a wait list for the ADU grant program. It's been so popular, and we actually ran out of funding last spring. So if we do receive additional funding through the HAF program, we have a wait list of 12 units. But when I say staff get inquiries every day, every couple days of people interested in participating, I think the uptake would be quite healthy.
Also, is there any kind of, well, there's a waiting list for funding, but would there also be any kind of, like a wait list, because we've asked for review on the ADUs as well, right? We've asked for that. I asked for a report on that. So, because we've had a lot of complaints, Councillor Townsend and I, of the sizes of the ADUs in the backyards. If you looked at that map, all those, the double red dots, a lot of them are in St. George's Ward there. So we had concerns over the size of them, and that's why we've asked for a report to come back from staff, especially in height. So I don't know if that'll affect that or how we can wait on that, but we wait till the report comes back, I guess, right? Okay, so I answered my own question. Thank you.
Okay.
We like it when we answer our own questions. That's the best. Councillor Mako.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to staff, this is great work. My question is in the monitoring and evaluation section. I was curious if there's a chance for public feedback or input on an annual basis. And the reason I ask is this is a lot of housing being built into St. Catharines, most I've seen in my lifetime, which is needed, absolutely, especially affordable housing, but it's change. And we deal with that on an individual application basis here at council, but stepping back and looking year over year, sometimes significant change in certain neighborhoods more than others. And just wondering if there is an opportunity for the public to talk about, to the city about how it's changing their neighborhoods.
Through the mayor to the councillor, absolutely. I think as part of year 3, well, we always are looking for engagement opportunities. I think this year specifically, we'll be looking at kind of ramping up that. So definitely interested in getting more community feedback. It's very valuable to the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's not just reactive in the moment of a development application, but a bit more proactive.
We try our best, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Just a question about the downtown forgivable loan program. I know in the report, it says 12 units have been approved. Are there more in the pipeline or, okay, and as well, what has the uptake been on the additional money for accessible or barrier-free units?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor. So for the downtown forgivable loan program, yeah, we have had one approval so far. That's for 12 units downtown. We do have a couple other interested parties that one seems to be close to applying, and the other's kind of just collecting information. But even during the consultation period, we did get a lot of kind of feedback and some interest. And for the barrier-free, we issued $8,000 in grants for 4 units, and there are some other projects that are looking to take advantage of that as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic, and thank you. I know the downtown is very happy with it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the senior manager, director? Manager, sorry. Back to the accessory dwelling units. Of the 44 that were approved last year, how many are backyard units and how many are internal renovations, if the number's handy to you?
Yes, through the mayor to the councillor. In terms of the interior and detached breakdown for last year, so last year there were 25 detached ADUs that received grants.
So inside.
Oh, sorry, 25 exterior, so the backyard suites, and then 35 within interior.
Yeah, okay, and could you remind me the criteria? I remember when we talked about this, it was supposed to be for in-laws or family connections. As Councillor Kushner made the suggestion that people are in the, he didn't exactly say it, but there's the real estate investors that are doing this to flip them. What's our experience with that? Are they actually being used by family members, or are they being used as real estate investments opportunities?
Through the mayor to the councillor, we don't restrict on who's going to end up living in there, so it could be a real estate investor, but if you recall, when the program did come before council, we had a number of delegates advocating for their children to live at home or near the home. We had seniors and students looking to make a fresh start.
Okay, do we encourage one over the other, or we just look at the merits of each individual application?
Through the mayor to the councillor, individual merits of the application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ratzlaff.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to staff. This is really exciting to hear the positive news with this program. I'm just wondering, with the affordable units, the 43, can you just share which projects they are, or is that something that you can share? And yeah.
Certainly, through the mayor to the councillor. So the way that the affordable housing fee reimbursement grant is set up, planning fees for earlier applications like pre-consultation are eligible, and so that application is for a pre-consultation. So unfortunately, I'm unable to share those details at this time, but they are progressing with their planning stages. So I hope that we'll have a public application very soon that we can share with you.
No, that's great news. It's great to hear that there's more affordable units coming. That answers my question, because I was just curious if there are any of the projects that the public is already aware of. But seeing that they're not, that just means that there's more affordable units to look forward to. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ratzlaff. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff. As you can all see, there's a lot of them in St. George's Ward. Councillor Stevens and I have received a lot of phone calls about them. Great program. It seems very successful, but just because it is very important to have resident feedback and input on things like this, as well as other concerns across the region. It's with the detached ADUs, what is the height limit with those? Because some of the concerns we've had from residents, and we've received text messages with pictures of the ADUs built in people's backyards. We've heard stories from residents we're going to have their kids living in those ADUs in order to push to get their ADUs, and then see them listed on realtor.ca. Yes, they've added ADUs to the community, which is great. I'm just wondering, where are we at on the heights? Some of them do look quite high.
Through the mayor to the councillor, under our zoning bylaw, the maximum wall height is 4.5 meters, and it can go up to 6 meters for the roof. Having said that, I do believe there have been a couple minor variance applications that considered increasing the height, and they would have been reviewed on its own merits at that time.
So if one's, through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff, so if there's an ADU that was built, say, like 24 feet, which is higher than the 6 meters, what happens with that? Does that go then to Committee of Adjustment for approval?
Through the mayor to the councillor, that's correct. Although the zoning bylaw, I believe, for existing detached garages, I believe you can convert them as of right with meeting certain limitations. So I think there's a bit more flexibility with those structures.
Thank you for that, and just important to hear residents' concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other comments or queries? Okay. I will just say, and to Councillor Townsend, and that's a good point, and I think that was the subject of the report that Councillor Stevens was asking for, because I think there have been a couple of situations where people have identified, a primary structure as a bungalow, and then the structure being built in the backyard is 2 stories, and it clearly is supposed to be subservient. That's the point. And so I think staff are looking at that to perhaps bring some amendments. I also appreciate, you stole my thunder, but I was going to give credit to St. George's Ward. The heat map very clearly indicates that St. George's Ward is taking advantage of the ADU program, I think, as well as anybody, if not better. I did want to take a moment to give kudos to staff. The Housing Accelerator Fund office has worked hard over the last 2 years, and I think our numbers bear that out. When I'm speaking to federal officials, they tell me that St. Catharines is being held up as a model to the rest of the province and the country. We are, meeting our goals as this report clearly outlines. We are building, and we are seeing units get built. I shouldn't say we are building. I always remind people, we don't swing hammers. We do the approvals, we do the permits, but we don't swing the hammers. Our development community is building at a time where that's not happening in other places. So we're continuing to hit our goals and improve upon our goals year after year. We're seeing increased housing starts at a time where in other parts of the country, that's just not occurring, and I think that speaks to the commitment of this council and the housing action plan that we moved forward with in our first year. I think it also speaks to previous councils, and I will give credit to those who were here before this term of council, because some of the approvals that happened in those years are now coming to fruition. This is a good news story, though, whether it's the ADU grant program or it's the incentive programs that we've brought in under the HAF banner or the Municipal Development Corporation. And obviously, I have a soft spot for the Municipal Development Corporation. This was an idea of the last term of council that took a while to get going, but seems to now be maximizing the potential we knew it had. And the benefit to our community is that we received Housing Accelerator Fund from the federal government, which allowed us to do it with no cost directly on the property tax levy. And I think we're starting to see the positive results that we wanted to see from that. And so I look forward to that continuing. And so I gave credit to staff, and I do appreciate the hard work of the Housing Accelerator Fund staff and our planning staff, everybody who's involved, our finance staff. But I also want to give credit to council for making some very good decisions, not just in this term of council, but previous terms of council, that allow us to be one of the positive examples in the current ongoing housing crisis. And with that, I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor Phillips. Yes. Councillor Mako.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
And Mayor Sisko.
An enthusiastic yes.
That's carried.
It's unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Harris. You're right. 9.2, Community Recreation and Culture Services and Economic Development and Tourism Services, Port Dalhousie Transient Dockage Update. This was deferred from February 9th. Can I get a councillor to move the recommendation in the report? Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Lindell. Councillor Townsend, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank Council for allowing this to be deferred from the last meeting. I guess in keeping with the theme tonight and hearing resident feedback on things like docking fees and how we govern our docking in Port Dalhousie, I think it's going to be really important that that we find a solution. We did have a resident that came to Council that, when we asked for this report to be sent back in regards to a seasonal pass for St. Catharines residents, I can see that it's been since added. I've been in contact with Director Christie, so I want to send my appreciations to Director Christie for connecting with the company that does run the docking services. One of my concerns with the report when it did come back, because I understand that in 2014 why the city decided to outsource this, or sorry, in 2024 to outsource this. Some of my concerns are in regards to, I guess, some of the reasons why it was outsourced, I don't think are relevant now. I look at, in the report, it talks about, staff handling cash. We're not handling cash. There's, tap and pay now. There's alternative ways to pay. The Harbor office, I think there are locations where we could potentially do this in-house. I don't represent this ward, so I'm hoping my colleagues from Port Dalhousie will chime in on the discussion, but I am happy to see that we did bring forward in this report now is a seasonal pass, and I'm hoping that as a part of this, just to confirm, we had high-level conversations. It looks like the offer is going to be a 50% discounted rate for St. Catharines residents. I'm wondering if we could direct staff to connect with the current provider to have a set flat rate for the season. If staff could take that as direction, maybe perhaps to Director Christie.
Through the mayor to the councilor, can you clarify what you're looking for, councilor?
Thank you. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm looking for a specific flat rate for the season. Unless this the standard rates of the 150 that is for the season. Am I seeing this correctly?
Through the mayor to the councilor, it is for the season. It's a maximum of 6 hours for the day. So it's a flat rate of essentially $75, including HST, for the season.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. So through this, so even though, so it says the standard rate is 150, it'll now be 75 if you have a boat up to 32 feet, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you for doing the outreach, and I'll pass it along perhaps to the ward colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did send, an experienced sailor had sent some suggestions and questions, and I maybe just should clarify, which I passed along to staff. Are the fees clearly stated so that everybody knows what they're expected to pay? And does there follow up in terms of ensuring that everybody's charged those same fees?
Through the mayor to the councilor, the rates are posted, councilor. They're posted at 2 locations. They were last year, and I spoke to the vendor this afternoon, and he is open to either installing more prominent signs or increasing the number of locations that they're going to be posted at, but they will be clearly posted.
Okay, thank you. And is there records kept as to the identity of the boats and the boaters, and when they arrived and when they left and what was been charged?
Through the mayor to the councilor, yes, the vendor collects all of that information when they register. Of course, when they don't register, if somehow the staff on site misses them or they miss each other, we don't capture that, or they don't capture that information, but they do their very best to capture that information.
Okay, and is the staff, how are they identified? Are they wearing some kind of uniform or?
Through the mayor to the councilor, yes, they are identified. I believe that their shirts should say Lakeside Park Marina staff.
Okay, and then the people who come into town, I've been to my younger days when I did a little bit of sailing on other people's boats. Typically, you'd arrive and some of these marinas would have facilities. Do we just offering what we have at Lakeside Park bathrooms, or something beyond that?
Through the mayor to the councilor, I had an opportunity to speak to the vendor about this as well. That information is actually can be found on the website, and whether or not people see that on the website, he acknowledges that we can do a better job of posting which amenities are included and not. So yes, we'll be able to correct that for this year.
Okay, thank you. And then in terms of electricity use, is that monitored, the amount of electricity that's being used?
Through the mayor to the councilor, yes, because there's an extra charge for hydro.
Okay. I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Mako.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to, I think, Director Christie, the one motion, part of the motion from May, I said staff will consult with relevant stakeholders as part of the investigation. Could you maybe just highlight who were the stakeholders that were consulted with and any general findings or specific ones as part of that investigation?
Through the mayor to the councilor, if you could clarify which investigation are you referring to?
It says, be it further resolved that staff consult with relevant stakeholders as part of this investigation.
Through the mayor to the councilor. So we, at heart here, the question was related to the fees. So the fees are part of the rates and fees bylaw, which comes to a public meeting here at council. So beyond that, we didn't really consult with anybody else because those are the things that were in question. The vendor is using the city and council approved rates and fees. So in effect, through those consultations, that's how we arrived at this information.
Okay, it was very specific to the fees then. Maybe I misunderstood. I kind of thought of it as more of evaluation, quality assurance, more how is the program going? But this was just specific to the fees. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other questions? Yes, Councillor Harris.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Community, Recreation, and Culture Services. How exactly does the vendor collect money? How exactly does that happen?
Through the mayor to the councilor, a boater can go to the concession stand at Lakeside Park, or they can tap when they see an employee on the dock, at the dock.
Okay.
Or they can also register online, so they can pay online.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Community Recreation and Culture Services, have we looked into, like we do have that technology out there already with the parking pay and display machines we have, that perhaps a boater could actually just tap that and get a pass, like almost like a parking pass, and they could actually use their number off their boat and we could track everything and it'd be totally cashless, and, you know, have we looked into that? Because I think I mentioned it the last time this came up, so, and I don't see it in anything.
Through the mayor to the councillor, I did ask about that. I was informed that the current parking system does not allow for this at the moment. They don't have the capacity. Doesn't stop us from looking into it in the future.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Community Recreation and Culture Services, I think you'll find it does actually have the capacity. I'm not sure who actually gave you that answer, but I'm pretty confident that it could be done, and it would probably achieve what would be a good way to track everything, I would think. And you wouldn't have to worry about people going to the concession stand and tapping or finding a porter. I'm just wondering how we can look into that. I'm not sure the process. Maybe I'll look to the CAO, or through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO.
Oh, well, he's always correct for it to be through me. And I
Through you,
appreciate
Mr.
it.
Mayor.
Thank you. To the CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So currently we have a license agreement with the vendor, and they handle all of the payment processes, hence the reason why it's going through either Lakeside, a website, or the TAP system with their employees. If that agreement no longer continues after the expiration date, then we would look at incorporating it into the general parking system, if that's what you're speaking towards. But right now, the vendor handles all of the payment.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Chief Administrative Officer. When is the expiration date of the contract?
Through the mayor to the councillor, December 2027.
Okay, perhaps we could put some sort of amendment that we actually will look into it this time in 2027 and look for a solution that's, yeah, because if we already have the capacity in our parking, I would think it would be easy to incorporate it.
So, Councillor, then, are you asking to make an amendment to this?
I am, Mr. Mayor, I am asking to make an amendment.
I'm glad we're being very clear and straightforward. So then could we add a proposed amendment that council directs staff to identify options for using the current parking system to facilitate
Well, you're
transient-
parking a boat, right? So.
Pardon?
You're parking a boat, it's like parking a car.
Sure, facilitate transient dockage payment. And I will look to the mover and the seconder. Is that friendly? Could we open Councillor Townsend's mic?
Well, let me turn mine off.
Thank you. It's friendly, but I think where you're going with this is to bring it back in-house. I think that's what you're asking to do, right? Where a city would look after that, using that, our program, but using it in-house?
If we could open Councillor Harris's microphone.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Townsend, that could be an option, yes. Yes.
So that is friendly. Councillor Lindell, is that friendly to you as well?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Thank you, Councillor Harris. Seeing no other speakers to the motion. Oh, Councillor Townsend, sorry, I cleared the queue. I will come back to you.
Just quickly, and I guess I just want to see it that it includes in-house, because we would have to do it through the city. I'm seeing council direct staff to identify options to use the current parking system to facilitate transient dockage.
I think council, they would have to bring forward in-house options if that were the direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Mako.
Yes.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Ratzlaff?
Yes.
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
Counselor Williamson?
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
That's carried.
Item 9.3, Economic Development and Tourism Services, Outstanding Report List, Item 2023-26, Buchanan House and Old Courthouse Updates. This was deferred from the February 9th, 2026 meeting. Can I get a counselor to move the recommendation? Counselor Townsend, seconded by Counselor Miller, who's very enthusiastic on this one. And then Counselor, just give me 1 second, Counselor.
Yeah.
Okay, I was looking around. Yours is the one light that I can't see because of the angle of the microphone. All right, Counselor Townsend, you want to jump in? You are first up on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I won't go on and on about this. So I appreciate staff, the work they've done on 2 Facer Street. I'm really excited, as is my council colleague, Councillor Stevens, on what the future of Facer Street will look like. In regards to this report, we had asked for this back in May of 2023. The Buchanan House questions were answered. We've council and the mayor's office have received a lot of questions, and staff as well, about the potential of having a school put into Buchanan House. As we are aware, it is federally owned. We lease it from them. So we've had a lot of calls and a lot of emails. So I appreciate staff and the mayor's office explaining to the public that, you know, we can't just put a school in that building. Not only is it used by staff, we need the space. It's just not, we can't lease it out to other potential groups without potentially buying and owning Buchanan House. One of my concerns that I do have in this, and I'm hoping the ward councillors will jump in on this. I know they're very passionate about this location. It's the old courthouse here downtown. You know, it's been 3 years, and I'm not satisfied with this memo coming back from staff, essentially just suggesting that, you know, we're not going to do anything with the old courthouse. The original motion and the intent was from that motion and ask was to have staff come back with some ideas for the future steps and what can be used in that building. And I understand part of it's being used by staff, but it's not being utilized to its potential. And we hear from residents, I can only imagine what the downtown councillors hear about the old courthouse. I'm sure they get lots of calls and emails about it over their term on council. But this doesn't fulfill what the request was. It's disappointing. You know, the teacher and me would say the work is incomplete, and we essentially just want some ideas on what we can do with this space. I understand that there's some work that needs to be done in it. I understand there's some staff that are using, from what I understand, half the building. But this is a key piece of our community, or it can be. I just want to see some further studies on this and perhaps have staff come back with potential uses, because the community wants to know. And I'm sure the downtown councillors want to know what the potential uses can be for this building. So I'm asking if we can just pull that piece out and perhaps refer that back to staff for a report on potential uses of the old courthouse. And if maybe the 2 ward councillors want to move it, I don't want to speak for them, but if they're comfortable with that, happy to pass it along. But that would be something that was originally asked for with this request that happened in 2023.
Okay, so it is a referral back, and normally you wouldn't be allowed to speak to that. I appreciate us following procedure appropriately. That was a good catch there. Councillor Harris, you're going to refer this back to staff?
I would
requesting
like,
potential uses?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to refer this back to staff for potential uses.
Okay.
Non-debatable.
A referral motion is non-debatable. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. So refer back to staff. We will go to 9.4, Planning and Building Services Bylaw Enforcement and Licensing Residential Rat Control Rebate Program. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Councillor Townsend, Councillor Ratzlaff. I didn't pick Councillor Ratzlaff on purpose, but he's just the first hand that went up. Mice giggle, but rats laugh. That's how he taught me how to say his name when I first got up here. All right. Councillor Townsend, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, in keeping with our theme tonight and hearing from residents, myself, I'm sure the Meriton councillors have heard a lot about rats. I'm sure the Grantham Ward, I'm sure everyone across the city has heard about, especially in downtown as well, I'm guessing. But look, we had asked for this report in September this year. Look, I appreciate that the report did come back in a form of a memo. It's highlighted some of what other communities are doing. I did receive, speak of timing, I received an email, which I did forward as correspondence to the rest of council from Mr. Knight, who lives in my ward near the, where the old Black Sea Hall was just demolished, and we see some exciting housing happening there. But one of the challenges with that is they've been seeing an increase in rats, and he sent me photos of the rats that have gotten into his vehicle and chewed the wires. And when he took it into Toyota, they said, no, it wasn't just because it's a Toyota, it's because they enjoy the wiring and the type of truck. So he's caught about 16 rats on his property recently, which is a lot. It cost him over $1,800 to fix the wiring on his Toyota truck. And just the costs continue to escalate. This is one of many, many calls and emails that Councillor Stevens and I have received across St. George's ward. And as I said, my colleagues have probably dealt with it too. So, one of the things I would like to see is perhaps us provide some type of support when it comes to rat control, whether it's back to the $200 rebate, or perhaps it is some caging technology that we can implement. This the memo. Look, while I appreciate it, it doesn't really provide any options. So I would like to have some options for us to consider, if that could come back in a report. Because I do think that the city does have a responsibility as we do start seeing some of these old buildings being demolished, especially across the city. So I would like to, I guess, put that into a request to have staff come back, and if other councillors maybe want to chime in with some options, I'm happy to hear those.
So I don't think this is a referral. The last one didn't have to actually be a referral. It was just the cleanest way, but you can receive the memorandum, and then the request would be that staff bring back a further report with options to consider, with options to consider possible reintroduction of the rebate program or alternatives. Or alternatives, yeah. Consider reinstating rat rebate program or other alternatives. I'm going to let the wordsmithing go on while we, Councillor, you're good? Okay. Councillor Lindell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Besides what Councillor Harris is whispering in my ear, I'm just wondering, did we ever have a program where we gave out rat traps? Like the city would come and put the rat traps by the house or whatever? Because I know they did that in Niagara Falls. Is that something that we have done?
No.
No? Can that be part of the options then maybe that staff can consider? Because I know.
I think staff could take that as a direction to look at that as a possible
Yeah, because
option.
I know I have several people on Queenston Street and in behind the hospital site that are calling me and telling me that their vehicles are being chewed up, their wiring is being chewed up. There's one gentleman on Queenston Street who has done 3 times a year now for the last year, $500 from pest control to come and take care of the rats. And then on top of that is paying for repairs on his vehicles and on his house. So I think it would be up to us maybe to help them out a little bit, because it's not their fault we're tearing down a hospital site or the GM site or whatever site happens to be worked on right now.
Councillor Phillips.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think there's anybody sitting around the horseshoe that hasn't had a recent complaint about rats. I've personally visited a couple of sites of residents, and it's incredible the damage that has been done to the front yards. But one resident who I visited, who we all know, he lives downtown, indicated that in the States there is a material that you can put out that actually sterilizes rats. Now, it's a long-term situation type of thing, but over a period of time, obviously, they can't reproduce. It's something that this person has investigated. It's, I forget what city it was in the States. I could give you the person's name to follow up. But that's something that the city might want to investigate, because that's going to get rid of them one way or the other. I don't know the name of the product or anything like that. I just know this person said that it's supposed to work with great success.
Bill the Rat Sterilizer Phillips. That might be the greatest wrestling name I've ever heard in my life. Councillor Dodge.
Sometimes my best thoughts are left unsaid.
Willard the Rat. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, we've all had the same situation where we've had people call and tell us about their situation with their rats and how difficult it is to get the little money that they have. So I'm wondering if, and I know that it's you know, for staff it's difficult too, because there's so much work involved with getting the, you know, the rebates back to people and stuff like that. Is there any way that the city itself, I think it's a great idea to give people rat traps or whatever, if people are willing to do that. But is there any way that we as a city could be doing something proactively, like maybe around the sites or throughout the city where we know that we have an abundance of the pest around?
So I'm going to jump in because I don't know if staff could actually answer that question, but I'm just going to clarify something because I've heard it a few times. I hope we all understand that rats don't exist because buildings get torn down. Rats exist because people are keeping garbage. And if we're being completely honest, and I was going to save this to the end, but I just want to make sure, this is very much a garbage issue. And I would strongly suggest to our residents who are in these situations, and I'm not taking an opinion, if council wants to move forward with a rat rebate program, then we will do that. We did it for a number of years. There were some residents who felt it was important. But the reality is, like, the buildings being knocked down are not causing the rat problem in those areas where it exists. The rat problem is very specifically because of an abundance of food. And the food comes in the form of waste. And I know when I was ward councillor in St. Patrick's Ward, there were a couple of areas in the ward where waste built up for a variety of different reasons. And those were the areas where most of the complaints were. A lot of times it was that people would ascribe it to, oh, well, it's because of the General Motors plant, or it's because of, in other parts of the city, there were no buildings being torn down. They were having rat problems as well. It always comes back to a source of food. So with respect to what the city could proactively do, the rat sterilizer has already suggested rat sterilization. I know, and it's a problem that many municipalities are struggling with.
A point of order, Mr. Mayor? Do
Pardon?
I still have the floor?
Of course you do. But
okay, I'm just wondering.
You know what, Councillor? Go for it.
I was going to get to those points that you're saying, and I agree with that. And part of that might be the fact that we have waste pickup every 2 weeks, especially in the summertime. And in the winter, actually, when they are looking for food and they are out in the streets, when we do things to displace their actual homes, they do go out into the rest of the neighborhoods. They don't just disappear because the building gets torn down. So no one's blaming anybody for it. We're just trying to get it so that the people that are having the issues, especially like along waterways, where there is an abundance of food, maybe around restaurants and different things like that, where they go to eat, or, you know, like one of the things that was told to me about rats was, you know, stop feeding birds, stop feeding the squirrels, because it attracts the rats as well. So there's lots of things in the, okay, and then I'm just getting a note here about homeless leaving garbages, and rats are attracted, now they are developing.
So we're blaming the homeless for the rats?
No. I'm just all right. Anyway, those were some of my comments, and I'm just wondering if there was a way that we as a city could, if we're not going to be able to help people personally, as a city, maybe we could look at places that, we know that they're coming from and do something to help resolve at those locations.
Noted. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple questions of staff. Why did we stop the rat rebate program when we had it?
Because council made a decision to remove it from the budget in 2023.
Okay, and was it an expensive project to run?
It was $20,000 a year.
Okay, so that was maxed out. So at $200, I think a rebate program was. So once we hit that 20,000 mark of people rebating, it would be.
I don't know if we
closed?
ever actually hit the $20,000. I would look to staff for clarity if we did, but I believe the program was undersubscribed every year for the 5 years, and it was a decreasing amount on an annual basis. So,
Okay, is there a lot of staff time in that involved to run that program too?
I can't answer that. The staff would have to answer. How much time was spent administering the rat rebate control program?
Through Mr. Mayor to the ward councillor, the memorandum has a link to an FMS report which will indicate the averages that we actually spent on time for administering the rat rebate program. Based on the averages, it was estimated that it was about 140 clerical hours per year, 70 hours for bylaw enforcement officers, and about 17 hours of financial management services time to process checks and administer those things. That was what we got as an average out of it.
All right, thank you. And yeah, I mean, it would be nice. There has been a problem, but as you point out, Mr. Mayor, people aren't using their green bins. Garbage is every 2 weeks, but you're not supposed to throw all your food scraps in the garbage. You're supposed to use your green bins. So if you use them properly, you're going to have less waste. But we did hear from bylaw before, because I had one neighbor in my neighborhood, and she was putting out like a ton of birdseed. And of course, the next door neighbor had a ton of rats. So you have to watch how much birdseed you put out and everything too, because you're feeding the rats, not just your feathered friends. So, but we do have to help our residents somehow, and it'd be good to get this checked out and see what we can do.
Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you. The thing I was wondering about with now is some trepidation because I don't want to be called the sewer rat from now on, but other municipalities have had some success, I think, with baiting sewers and working with the sewer system. I'm just curious if that is something we'd need to coordinate with Niagara Region about, if anyone knows that.
So this has come up in the past. It would be something that would be handled by the Niagara Region. We would not do that, and I'm looking to the CAO, but I believe that was the outcome of the first time we had this debate.
Okay.
I believe the conversation was whether public health would do it, and I believe public health said no. That's not something that's a policy at the region. Look to the CAO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do believe we have done the investigation. I do believe we have done rat baiting in the past in certain areas.
Okay.
We'll follow up with staff and get back to the councillor with what we have been able to do. Yeah,
and I don't know if we want to open the floor up to talk about governance, but it sort of speaks to some of the issues we have in Niagara, maybe. The only other note I'd make is maybe in conjunction actually with the region's public health is considering, I'm sure we've done this in the past, and I can recall seeing some things, but just some sort of public information campaign again about best practices, because this is ultimately human driven, right, and human cause. So if we can start to educate people on because I think a lot of people don't know or think about these things, maybe we can at least help mitigate some of the issues. So that could be direction to communication staff, and again, maybe in coordination with, I know public health at the region has a fairly robust communications team, so maybe they can be involved as well. Thank you.
Councillor Lindell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since I was the one that mentioned the buildings coming down, I want to clarify. I'm talking about places like the GM site and the Queenston site where the buildings have come down. They've been sitting for a while, and there have been people who have been living on the sites because they have nowhere else to go. And sometimes garbage accumulates there. That was my point. It's not the unhoused, and it's not the building coming down. It's what's happening on the properties. And now that they're being developed, they're removing dirt, they're removing places where the rats are hiding, and that's why they're going out into the neighborhood.
All right, we'll look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Counselor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Counselor Stevens.
Yes.
Counselor Williamson.
Yes?
Counselor Mako.
Yes.
Counselor Dodge.
Yes.
Counselor Kushner.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Lindell.
Yes.
Counselor McPherson.
Hundo P.
Counselor Miller.
Who, me? Yes.
Counselor Phillips.
The name of the product I was talking about is Contrapest, yes.
Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
That's carried.
Item 10.2, review the city's established street naming policy and consider the renaming of Prince Andrew Court. Moving the motion, I have Deputy Mayor Phillips. Seconding the motion, I have Councillor McPherson. Are there speakers to the motion? I'm going to ask whichever councillors turn their mic on to turn it off so we can get out of voting mode. Additionally, you can log in now if you would like to speak to this. All right, Councillor Williamson.
Well, the local residents will want to know how this is going to be handled in terms of costs, et cetera. Have we got a plan in place for that? Has anyone contacted any of the residents on the street yet? I guess we wouldn't have since you just brought it forward. I get that. One thing I will say, we have another street in the north end, which I won't name, where some victims of this person who the street's named after came forward and tried to have it renamed 7 or 8 years ago. So if we're going to rename this one, I think we need to consider this other one, which I can share privately.
So, Councillor, if we could do that in I think it's appropriate to do that in a separate motion. I'd leave it to you. We can bring that forward at the next meeting if you would like.
Okay, thank you. And we have determined that this street was in fact named after this with the former Prince Andrew?
It is attached to Prince Charles Drive and is around the corner from Prince Edward Drive. So, in this case, yes.
Well, there has been multiple Andrews, but I was assuming he would have been somewhere around 9 or 10 years old when the street was built. So
Charles, Edward, and Andrew are all brothers.
And Robert and Brooke Banks, and yes.
Oh, there are others in the area.
Yes.
I think they went on a spree. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So part of that report, when looking into different things, would be definitely consulting, because there's only like, what, 18 houses on that street?
I believe 14.
Whatever. So, I mean, ultimately, then, if the residents didn't want it and didn't want to incur the costs, then we wouldn't move ahead with something like that, would we? Against it. That's a little bit.
So if council moves forward with this evening, then we'll be renaming the street.
This is the thing that we're doing it.
Initiate and follow the city's established street naming policy process to review and consider the renaming of Prince Andrew Court.
Like,
So that's exactly what it says.
Okay, so I would think that if the 15 residents or whatever it is all came back and said, no, we don't want this, I don't think the council should go against them.
Well, then I guess at that point, it would be council's decision as to whether they want to keep the street named after this particular individual.
Who's so far just not been proven either, is what, like kind of jumping on the bandwagon a bit, right? He just got arrested and hasn't been proven in court yet?
You're right, Councillor. It hasn't been proven in court. There's just a lot of pictures. I'll leave it to you to make your decision as to what you want to leave streets named as.
Okay.
Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate this motion being brought forward. Similar to Councillor Williamson, I did have residents reach out. Well, one resident argued to me that the street is actually named after Prince Andrew, the father of Prince Philip, who is then the father of Prince Charles. So I just want to understand, and we've done obviously our history tour, and when this subdivision was built, I'm assuming it was built past 1960? Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And my follow-up question to that is, there have been additional influential individuals named in the Epstein files, as we know, including one today that's been under the heat, so Deepak Chopra. And I noticed that our library does cover and we have his books available, and he's been known in the Epstein files for doing horrific things. There's also been Bill Gates who's mentioned, Noam Chomsky. There's been a number of individuals. So I'm just wondering if they'll all be held accountable in regards to what we have going on in the city. I support the motion 100%, but I'm concerned about maybe some of the other individuals who could be deemed as supportive.
I think that's fair, Councillor, and if you want to bring a motion to ban those books, I think that's the appropriate step to take.
Thank you.
For yourself.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Harris.
To you, or I guess to Mr. Mayor, perhaps we could have staff come back with some sort of, this might happen in the future with different things, like how we've named buildings after people, like an actual naming policy. I don't know if we've ever incorporated anything in the naming policy, if people have been charged or convicted of things. Maybe I'll look to the Director of Community, Recreation, and Culture Services. When we came up with sponsorship packages and naming policies and things like that, did we actually have anything that reflects in the language that we can actually pull naming, or what's the procedure?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I don't have the policy in front of me. I do recall a section within the park naming policy, anyway, that's the one that I can speak to, that states that we can reverse a name or redo it. I should also add that at the beginning of that process, we do go through quite a substantial process to make sure that the people that are being considered, or the names being considered, are okay to do so.
Perfect, thank you. Back through you, or to the mayor, perhaps in this motion we can actually include that it comes back, you know how we're talking about coming back with a process, that we actually come back with how we're going to incorporate it in future naming opportunities, or direct staff to come up with an actual, because we have had this issue before. I don't know if everybody remembers the Performing Arts Center, but perhaps maybe the CAO can comment on it, how we can come back to protect ourselves so we don't actually have to come back to council. We can just follow the protocol or process.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do believe in any of our new agreements that we do have those provisions in place specifically for, as a result of the Performing Arts Center on a go-forward basis, but I don't believe it would apply to any agreements that would predate that, so we would have to address it in a report to your point. My point being, we have some in place after a certain date. Prior to that, we probably don't have a policy which we could bring back.
Guess then my question would be through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO. Could you not come back with some sort of policy that could actually be enforceable on things that we've named in the past? I would think you could have some sort of procedure or policy, correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we could bring a policy back on that specifically. My point being, we have agreements that were done before, which wouldn't have any language.
Yeah.
And if you're requesting that we incorporate a policy that would cover those instances, then we could do that.
Yeah, and then in the future, when these things happen, we can just get her done, right?
Understood.
So is that reflected anywhere in there that staff?
Recommendations, including options for alternative names. And then I think it would be it further resolved, staff report back on future options for street renaming scenarios.
And city assets, street renaming, all that kind of stuff.
City assets and street renaming scenarios.
Perfect, thank you.
Just going to pause for a second to allow that language to get up on the screen. On a policy regarding street renaming and city asset scenarios. Okay. Any questions? I'll look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Phillips? Yes. Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff?
Yes.
Councillor Stevens?
Yes.
Councillor Townsend?
Yes.
Councillor Williamson?
Yes.
Councillor Dodge?
Yes.
Councillor Kushner?
Yes.
Councillor Harris?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell?
Yes.
Councillor Mako?
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco?
Yes.
That's carried.
Are there any notices of motion for this evening? Seeing none? Nope. Notices of motion. That's not a notice of motion. Okay. Report requests, we have 2 on the screen, one from Councillor Townsend with respect to the feasibility and costs of retaining a private contractor to provide winter maintenance services for the Grantham Rail Trail. I've asked for staff to investigate and report back on options regarding capping the number of out-of-town players on local travel sports teams using City of St. Catharines facilities. Councillor Harris?
I was wondering if I could get a report back on Towering Heights, the parking, more specifically the parking as it relates to the construction, the upcoming construction, and how we could implement some sort of parking restrictions during construction, because there's going to be 2 buildings built there. Staff will know.
Okay. Any other report requests? Seeing none, Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I did have a resident call me today, wondering if we can have staff report back on the potential of widening of Dorchester in the near future between just off of Welland Avenue. I had about 3 residents call concerns about it gets narrow, it needs to be addressed. So I guess the request is to direct staff to report back on the feasibility of widening or making changes on Dorchester South.
Okay. Any other report requests for this evening?
There's the one.
All right, seeing none. Committee and task force minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder to receive and file the minutes? Councillor Lindell, Councillor McPherson. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. No closed. No motion arising from closed. Can I have a mover and seconder for the bylaws A to D? Councillor Mako, Councillor Harris. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Harris. Councillor Stevens. All those in favor? Opposed? Good night.